Seen from the air, the impact of water and irrigation on Fremont County is unmistakable. Most of the county is a dry, desolate sagebrush desert, possibly inhabited by more jackalope than human residents. But a combination of natural and man-made water sources have helped develop a flourishing agricultural industry in the heart of the county. Earlier this summer, Riverton Museum guests and staff joined Steve Lynn of the Midvale Irrigation District. Together, we learned the history of this remarkable water system and the ways that it continues to benefit Riverton, nearby towns, and Fremont County as a whole. Please be aware that while many of the places we went are publicly accessible, not all of the Midvale Irrigation District areas are open to the public. As you go out and explore these amazing places, we ask for your respect and consideration by following the signs and warnings you see. The whole system is under video surveillance, and trespassing could place you in harm's way. With that, we hope you enjoy this virtual adventure trek, which is sponsored by the Wind River Visitors Council.
All right, very good. Well, thanks for joining us today on our drive tour of the river, or the Midvale Irrigation District. This where we're at now is Bull Lake, and this is Midvale Irrigation District's storage reservoir for after the river flows go down. Because typically what we do is we'll pull all our irrigation water out of the Wind River, and we're allotted so much by the state engineer's office. There's different irrigation districts obviously down the valley. So we have Riverton Valley Irrigation District, we have LeClaire Irrigation District, and they have priority rights that we have to pass by Diversion Dam, which will be our next stop. On the timeline that I handed out, it shows, about when things happened in the district and when they started doing things. But the Diversion Dam was one of the first things that the Bureau built to divert the river water off into the Wyoming Canal. And what they saw they needed was late in summer when the river was down, they needed to be able to supplement water throughout the short growing season that we have here. And so they developed Bull Lake Reservoir. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was started in 1936. If I'm correct, it's a contract awarded in 1935 for Bull Lake Dam. And it was completed in 1938 after they awarded it. But we can store 150,000 acre feet of water, which means 1 acre foot means you could cover 1 acre with a foot of water. So that's the reality of how that, a good picture of how that, people will understand that. 1 acre foot is 1 acre covered in 1 foot of water. So starting here at Bull Lake, this isn't the first thing that they built, but this was something that came about after the fact because of the, to extend the growing season and to irrigate. Right now what you see a contractor working with the Bureau of Reclamation. And I should say the Bureau owns and manages this dam, and we're contracted as Midvale to operate and maintain it. Major projects like the Spillway, the new Spillway, the Bureau contracted that out, and we're under a repayment for that. But that's what they're working on now, is a new spillway. So the water you see being released from the bottom right here into lower Bull Lake Creek is water, being that the reservoir is near capacity, any drainage that comes into Bull Lake from upper Bull Lake Creek has to be passed through because we can't store anymore. So we just add that to the Wind River basin. We just add that to the Wind River, and it goes on down, ends up at the end of the day, ends up in Boise, and then goes through Wind River Canyon and down into Thermop and Worland and water users down there. But
do they have seniority?
Worland has senior rights to everybody here.
Yeah, because they were settled earlier.
I think so,
yeah.
And actually, I think Riverton Valley has senior rights, and LeClaire has senior rights.
Okay.
So we have to pass a certain amount through Diversion Dam.
How's 2020 looking for?
Looking good. It's going to be a good water year for us. We had the precipitation in the valley was pretty lax. It was not very much. But the higher elevation precipitation was anywhere between 250% to 450% of a 30-year average.
I was up here about a month ago. There was still snow on the
Yeah.
right there.
Yep. Well, and the reason that snow came down, it was hard pack and ice,
Right.
and when the precipitation hit it, it facilitated that water coming down as well. So, yeah, we're blessed to have another good water year. So,
All right.
so what we'll do is we'll just go down here to the outlet works, and we'll look at the bridge, and I'll show you how the old spillway works, the emergency spillway. That's an emergency spillway. This was built for irrigation and flood control. So if this dam wasn't here, everything that came down out of this drainage would rush down to the Wind River, and it would rush down to Riverton,
Wow.
and it would do a lot of damage. So part of the purpose of it is flood control.
Sure.
And a great benefit of that is that we have a
Irrigation.
storage reservoir for later in the year irrigation.
Huh.
So, okay. So, one of the people in the tour brought up a good question. Why do we release what we do out the bottom? One of the reasons why at this time of year right now is that all the drainage, everything that's coming in, as we're closing in on capacity on the reservoir, we have to release what's coming in out the bottom so we don't exceed the limitations or the targets set by the Bureau. As mentioned before, had this dam not be here, then we would have a flooding issue when the runoff spikes, and it would be caused to property and human life. So being able to control this and obviously use it for irrigation purposes as well. Right down here at the bottom is the outlet works. Now we have 4 gates that are down in the bottom of this that we can operate, and they used to operate those manually, and there was a camp up here where people would stay, government employees, and they would operate this manually. With technology, we've updated the system to automation, so my water master can run this from his smartphone. He can read, and so the gauging station up at Upper Bull Lake Creek, he can read that, and if it's coming in too fast, then he can adjust the gates going out, so that we keep the lake in the reservoir at a manageable elevation. So again, this is the old spillway over here to the south, and it's not in disrepair, but it's at a point where it needs to be replaced. So that's why the government put a contract out, and the contractor's working on rebuilding the spillway. So we can walk down here and we'll look at the bridge and look at the spillway. Any questions so far?
How old's
Okay.
that bridge?
It's same year. They put that in there when they built the spillway and the embankment the same.
So where are the actual repairs?
Well, they're not repairing it. Now we've been repairing it and maintaining it as we've seen issues over the years. They're replacing it, and they're taking it further to the south. So the emergency spillway is going to come around right where the crane's at, right above it, and the channel is going to make kind of a left-hand, a northern turn, and you can see the swale over there,
Right.
and it's going to come straight into down here in kind of a stilling basin.
That's the emergency.
Bef-
Another emergency.
That's going to be the emergency. When they're done, they're going to tear this one out.
Oh.
So this is going to go away.
This is where the problem is.
In the old spillway, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we can walk down here. There's a little trolley. You see the rails in the concrete?
Yeah.
There's a little cart in there with a motor that you hook up like a drive line to these gates, and there's 3 places to do that because there's 3 emergency spillway gates. The idea was that if it come a flood from up there, then there's some automation that automatically. But if they had to operate it manually, they could roll that cart out here, start the motor after it's hooked up, and raise those emergency spillway gates. The counterweights on these gates is what helps them to open, because there's a lot of pressure up against the gates, which we're right on top of.
Is this still viable?
It still works. Yeah, everything still works.
Wow.
Yep. And you can see the way the way everything is riveted and manufactured. Back in the day that they did this is the original bridge for this. And the concrete.
This is in the 30s, right?
Yeah, 36 to 38 is when they built this.
Shit, Riverton was about 1,000 people then, if that.
Yeah.
They lived.
So
right
they built that temporary road across there, so they could get to this side. That's the contractor did. When I say they, and there's culverts under that, so water, any of the water that's in here,
okay.
it goes back and forth.
Oh,
But,
okay.
yeah, for right now,
It siphons back to this point.
yeah, it just runs out to lower Bull Lake Creek. Yeah. So right now the capacity in this lake right at this moment is about 100. It's almost 149,000 acre feet. So, having that little bit of freeboard on the gates, which you see what's left of the gates there,
Right.
is a little insurance, if you will. In case we get a huge storm event up in the mountains, then we've got this little risk factor here.
Oh, okay.
We try to build that in a little bit so that we're not always pushing our luck. Because we can respond fairly quickly with the automation and open those gates if we get a big storm event up above us. Fairly quickly. But there's always that fairly quickly isn't fairly enough.
Well, I always wondered how that.
But all this was built, back in the day when we don't have the modern conveniences and the modern machinery and technology that we have now.
It's amazing what they did.
Yeah.
They must have camped up here. I don't know.
They did. There was a house up here that they had. People stayed up here and maintained and watched this thing the whole.
But I mean the construction
24/7.
They must have had a camp here, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Had to. They didn't.
I'm sure they did.
Now they've got that.
So where you see the straightness of the dam right here is original, and then where you see it jut out all of a sudden right. Okay, so right where that ford is over there, that's original. So they had to come in and build a coffer dam around their work so that they could do their work, and then when that's all completed, they'll take that coffer dam and put it around here and dry it up. So, and then return that to the original bank. So this is Diversion Dam, and this was completed in 1921. Actually 1923, 1921 they started it. And they diverted the river over on the dike on the far side, on the south side. They diverted the river over while this was under construction. And this is the original structure. This has been handling the water for Midvale Irrigation District ever since it got completed. At one time, I was reading, this was the longest span over a river. It was 8 sections, excuse me, 2, 4, 6, 8. With eight sections that go across here. This right here at Diversion Dam is really where Midvale Irrigation District starts its works at this dam or at this diversion. Because the Wyoming Canal, as we'll show you soon, starts right here. That's the reason we back this bay up so that we can capture the water from the river and be able to utilize it for irrigation of almost 74,000 acres, between 73 and 74,000 acres of irrigated ground. This is what causes the agriculture industry in Riverton and the area, in Shoshone and North Portal and Cottonwood Bends. This is what makes this happen, makes the ag industry successful. the ability to divert the river right here and use it for irrigation purposes. So, and it's beautiful down here.
Yeah.
You know, as mentioned earlier, I mean, wildlife is everywhere. We've got otters and cougar, elk. We've got bald eagles, golden eagle. It's just teeming with wildlife, and it's just a great place to come visit, put your pole in the water, and come fish. But like I said, this was completed in 1923, and that's when Wyoming 1st Division, which is the canal that we'll see here in a second, which carries, every 1st Division goes to the basically 18 miles downstream on the Wyoming Canal, and then for all intents and purposes, right at the top end of Pilot Butte Reservoir, where Pilot Butte gets filled from the Wyoming Canal, is really, we call that 2nd Division beyond that, because that's where, but the official 2nd Division as it was constructed goes to 18 miles, which is beyond that. But just another really important feature. If this wasn't here, Midvale Irrigation District wouldn't be here. So.
Yeah. Or Riverton for that matter.
Or Riverton for that matter, yeah. There's a lot of, I mean, the opening of the West and the ability to be able to make a living out of the land for Midvale Irrigation District and for all the farmers starts right here.
Yeah. We're going to have to throw it a 100th birthday party here pretty soon, aren't we?
Pretty quick, pretty quick. One more year, it's 100 years old. We have, you know, the Spillway, the different sections of Spillway right here. They call that Emoji, Crest, Spillway, and any waters that are exceed what we're trying to pull in, obviously go on downstream. They're not regulated. There's a log sluice right there that not in use anymore, rarely in use, I should say. And then right here to the right, we've got 4 gates that control what goes through the river, and then over here on the right we see what we've got gates over here that also control what we're putting into 1st Division, pending demand from the farmers and how they order their water. So one of the neat things to see is that you know, as they built this thing back in 1921 and 22, and they finished in 23. Is they didn't have modern day forms, and so they had individual boards for forms, and they made their own concrete here out of the river sands and rock, and they had a batch plant set up, and they diverted the river around on the south side of the embankment here so they could work on this fairly dry. And so yeah, we're about to celebrate a 100-year birthday on this structure. Served us well.
Be fun to make it a community thing, shoot off a bunch of fireworks.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. It would be. And this is really where the project begins. This was built in 1921, or excuse me, the Wyoming 1st Division Canal, Wyoming Canal 1st Division was built in 1920, so it's 100 years old this year. You got 6 canal gates. And we'll show you in a little bit, you know, how this is backed up above it, and we call that a bay, in order to get the hydraulic pressure to run the system, and whatever is in excess goes on downriver for other users. But again, you can see the lines in the concrete where they board formed this back in the early 20s, and again had a batch plant set up out here in the river as it was diverted around the work, and this is where it all begins for Midvale. And you know, we've got security cameras, automation, just the same way as we did at Bull Lake, and my water master can operate this anywhere from his either from his computer at the office or from his smartphone. He can actually monitor all the stations all around the district, and he can pretty much run the water from his smartphone. So you have do in our office. Yeah. We can monitor the places that we want to keep an eye on from our office, and then the water master can also monitor those cameras, and they're on 24/7. They capture things. We can go back and archive and see anything. We've seen, like I said, we've caught wildlife up here. So as you can see, we have a cart that we can pull out here. They used to have a cart that they run out here on these rails, and we're able to manually open these gates with an external power source. But now that we're automated, and like I said, we've got the security cameras and everything, and we can monitor this thing 24/7. They can operate this remotely as demand increases or decreases. And you're looking at the control house for the canal, for First Division for Wyoming Canal. And if you swing over here to the left, you can see the river gates and the automation that operates the river gates as well. And out here in the bay above the dam, you can see a log boom which catches all the debris during high water, and it forces it downriver instead of going down the canal system. So that's what those are, is a log boom. But think about this 100 years ago, what an engineering feat this was. At one time the Bureau had close to 400 people working on this project. Wow. They had rooms full of engineers, rooms full of admin people, and then of course the workforce out in the field. It was just astounding, just the forces that came and had the vision not only for themselves for the day, but they were thinking a century later and beyond. Riverton wouldn't be what it is today without the work that these guys did on the Riverton project in Midvale in the 20s when it was formed, the district. I think it's a lot of history that people need to know about. It's not just something that drive by and go, oh cool. Let's dig into it a little bit and go, what drove the people that built this stuff? And again, I got to go back to, it wasn't about them. They were selfless. They were thinking about the future, decades and centuries later. And just the enormous amount of people that this benefits, it's far-reaching. Yeah. I think a vast number of people don't even think about that these days. So we're here at what the district calls Spillway, which is at the top of Pilot Butte Reservoir. There's some gates here that control what goes down 2nd Division in the Wyoming Canal. And over across these gates here, you'll see another set of gates that run down into a flume that we'll show you pictures of a little bit later that feeds Pilot Butte Reservoir. This right here at Spillway also is significant because there's a large diameter pipe that the Bureau installed that we'll see here in a little bit that goes down and used to feed the hydro generation for the power plant that's no longer in operation, but it's a significant feature in the history of Midvale. But that pipe fed the turbine engines that produced the power that sent electricity across the area. So this is downstream, and I know I'm going to hate this, and we might have to edit it out, but I'm going to say I think you're about 15 miles downstream of Diversion Dam. And this is, you'll see earthen here, whereas you saw up at Diversion Dam at the headwaters of the Wyoming Canal, it's concrete for a ways, and now we're into earthen banks. And Midvale operates and maintains all this as well, and clean out the canal as sand drifts down the river, we catch that. Unfortunately, it ends up in the canal, and we've got to clean that out, and that's part of our job as operations and maintenance contractor for the Bureau. But anyway, this is pretty significant here because it fills Pilot Butte Reservoir, which fills the Pilot Canal, which irrigates a different portion of the district than the Wyoming Canal. So it kind of splits up right here, and we got the two different canals that feed the agricultural communities and the families of Midvale Irrigation District. And this is looking downstream of Forebay, and which feeds the second division of the district of the project. And this continues on into third division, which we'll cover later, that goes through Tunnel Hill and feeds the folks up in North Portal and Cottonwood. Eventually ends up in Boise Reservoir. But this is above Morton Lake, and just goes beyond the lake, and we'll go down to the dam, the lower dam on Pilot Butte Reservoir, Morton Lake, same feature, and show you where the Pilot Canal takes off from there. But right now we're standing in front of the Pilot Butte Power Plant, where the power was generated through waters from the first division of Wyoming Canal through a large diameter pipe that ran through the building, and inside the building was there's some turbine generators in there that produce the power that they sent around the district or sent in the surrounding areas, and that was a big part of helping to reclaim the cost of the project, was the power generation and selling that to help out with the cost of it. So the government was looking at ways to help out the cost of construction. And for those of you who think that the government just spends, or used to just spend our money hand over fist, they actually did try to reclaim some of those costs with power generation. This power plant is not in operation anymore, but it's just an integral part of the history of the district and the history of the area of Riverton itself. And a lot of the power went on up over the hill to Thermopolis, and it's a great reminder. It's of times gone past, and the people that put this project together and worked hard most of their lives to see for the future of the area. So this is a Pilot Butte power plant, no longer in operation, but a great reminder of the engineering and the thought process that went in behind the district and furthering the area.
Is there any original equipment in there?
There's all the original equipment still in there. It's just locked up, and again, it's security is tight around here, and we've got people living on site that keep an eye on things, and cameras, and so it's how we preserve history, is to make sure that those who would intend harm will not succeed. So this is the headway of the Pilot Canal, which serves the south edge of the irrigable ground within the Midvale Irrigation District, and it's fed by obviously Pilot Butte Reservoir, which we just saw how it gets fed off the Wyoming Canal. So this is the south leg of what feeds the agricultural community within the project. And so without this, we'd lose a lot of the agricultural production on the south end of the valley. So in their foresight with the Bureau, they decided to dig about almost 50 miles of canal to feed the people who need it on this side of the valley. Something we didn't mention before is that all the way around Pilot Butte Reservoir is a recreational area, and it's a Bureau of Reclamation recreation. There's campgrounds and day camping, and I've seen windsurfers and ski-doers and jet skis and fishermen and sailboats out here. Because you know the wind rarely blows in Wyoming, so sailboats wouldn't work real good. There's water skiers, kneeboarders. I mean, the recreation, it serves the community to get out and recreate and have a great time, build families. It's a lot of fun. Now, you know, Pilot Butte Reservoir holds around 30,000 acre-feet of water for irrigation, and unlike Bull Lake is a flood control and obviously storage for irrigation water, but the sole purpose of Pilot Butte Reservoir is for irrigation. Obviously, it feeds Pilot Butte Canal, or Pilot Canal, excuse me. So that's the difference in the two reservoirs. Is that Bull Lake is for a combination of flood control for spring runoff and / irrigation storage, and Pilot Butte Reservoir is for irrigation. This is 31 miles from Diversion Dam.
Wow.
On the canal. Oh, that's what that means. Yep. Yep, 31 of them. But this is a half a mile long tunnel. I believe it's a 72-inch tube, concrete tube. Runs for half a mile, and this is what opened up 3rd Division over in North Portal and feeds everything all the way down Cottonwood Bench and all the way out to Boysen Reservoir. Opened up a lot of acreage, and it took a farmer with some experience. There were a lot of people that got bids for the land up front, and they just weren't hardy enough, I guess would be a good way to put it. Some of the farms succeeded, some of the farms failed, and there was a move for the government to purchase the land back, and they had their own irrigation district for a time, and that didn't work out, and so Midvale eventually agreed to take that 3rd Division Irrigation District over, and it became part of Midvale's 3rd Division. So it's the history. I mean, there's so much history. You could turn this into a month-long class,
Yeah.
and still not get half of it. We walked this tunnel last fall on an inspection, and I should add too that the Bureau requires annual inspections. We just had an annual inspection on Pilot Butte Reservoir, the embankments in Bull Lake, just this end of last week, and then last fall we walked the whole tunnel, and the tunnel looked really good. The Bureau was pleased with what they saw, the wear in it, and everything. So yeah, this is just in 1947, 48 to hire somebody to bore through half a mile of a mountain to get water to the other side. It takes some vision and some hard work and determination. And just again, what a vision for decades and centuries later for people. And to understand the history of it is just key.
Yeah.
To never take for granted. People these days just go, oh yeah, it's there. I don't know how it got there. But to learn all that there is to know about the history of the Midvale Irrigation District it's pretty amazing. But anyway, this is the end of the half-mile tunnel on the north side of the tunnel into North Portal, and the continuation of the Wyoming Canal. Now we're at like 31.7, so we're right here. We're probably 31.5 miles from Diversion Dam on the downstream end of the tunnel, and we've got
So basically another 30 miles of canal runs all the way around Jim Bowsman's place and around Garrett Martin and back through Franzen and all the way down to Aaron Sorensen, Rich Pingetzer, and it ends up all the way down at Boysen again. So, I mean, this opened up a lot more land rather than having just to go muddy. And then and I don't know that these numbers are accurate, but just for example, what was the cost of opening up 4,000 acres versus the cost of opening up another 20,000 acres?
Yeah.
You know, because it wouldn't go any further down Muddy Ridge.
And that concludes our virtual tour of the Midvale Irrigation District. Thank you for sticking with us. We hope you enjoyed this tour, and we hope to see you in our future virtual tours as well as our in-person events throughout the rest of the year. Once again, thanks to Steve Lynn of the Midvale Irrigation District for hosting this tour, and thank you for watching from the Riverton Museum.